I want to share some sad news with everyone. It breaks my heart to say this, but Comcept is dead. That's right. Comcept Inc., also known as Level 5 Comcept Inc., is officially in the ground, dead, rotting, exploded by missiles. I think most people heard this news story and they went, that hadn't happened yet? Where'd that go? So if no one remembers, Comcept was as of yesterday, Keiji Inafune's own developer that he split off from Capcom to make the very creatively named Comcept to develop Mighty Number 9, the successor to Mega Man. I find that so funny. It's like one thing. Who noted this? I think it might have been there's a YouTuber named Jay's Reviews who does a lot of Mega Man reviews. He's reviewed like almost every game in the series basically. And he did a video on Mighty Number 9. He's done multiple now because he's done like revised reviews, like a second look kind of thing. And I think in the more recent one, he said something like Mighty Number 9 is just like not Mega Man. It's just diet off-brand Mega Man. And so really what is there that's super appealing? Besides like, oh, it's like a new Mega Man game has come out. And I find that really funny because Inafune also basically named his company not Capcom. This really interesting thing happened where... Oh, okay, so I wanted to double check, just in case you're curious, because I was. What did Comcept actually do? Have they done anything since Mighty Number 9? In fact, scarily enough, they have more work before Mighty Number 9 than after. They helped develop this game called Soul Sacrifice on the Vita, which I kind of remember. I don't know if I am actually remembering this game coming out, or if I am confusing it with the guy named Soul Sacrifice in the censored English subtitles of JoJo, the Ebony Devil user, whose real name is Debo. And they call him Soul Sacrifice for some reason. So what was Soul? That was co-developed by Marvelous. Oh, okay, the Rune Factory guys and the. Okay, yeah, yeah. So after Mighty Number 9, they basically the only game they really did was Recore, which I remember coming out, and no one ever talked about it. It does not have wonderful scores. And then I guess they worked on a port of Layton's Mystery Journey, Catriel and the Millionaire's Conspiracy. It's like a Professor Layton game. So I had not heard of that. That was in 2018. They did not do anything after that. I don't even know why they existed or what they... Has Inafune worked on anything? No, Inafune. Okay, has he worked on anything since date? By date. Yeah? Oh yeah, he's still oh, he's going by Keiji Shinafune. What? Okay. Is that a misspelling? He's still like a producer, supervisor. He worked on Azure Striker Gunvolt. Most recent thing is Fantasy Life I, the Girl Who Steals Time. He was a concept director. Is this what he was doing when those NFTs didn't work out? Those god-awful NFTs? Does anyone remember that? He was like, I'm going to make off-brand Mega Man X Mavericks, and they're going to be NFTs. And I don't think that ever... I guess it came out. Okay. So this really interesting thing, Mighty Number 9 actually came up in my mind the other day because I was watching this video from a YouTuber, and I forget what it was called. It was like The Problem with Cozy Games or something like that. Some very YouTube-y title. Because there's been this massive push for cozy games, pleasant, nice games, often about farming or something like that. I guess in the past we'd call them casual games. I'm glad we don't call them that anymore. Although I do find cozy, it is probably a better descriptor. I do find it like a little, maybe a little condescending. I don't know. And she's basically just talking about this entire thing that happened under my nose because I'm just not in that world. There's this really fascinating demographic shift that happened over the course of the pandemic lockdown, where there's all these people inside, people are losing their fucking minds, and then Animal Crossing New Horizons comes out. And that game probably saved a few people from suicide. I'm like not even joking. That game probably saved a couple lives and many more people's sanity. And so now there was this huge market of people who were like, oh my god, I want more games like this. Because, Animal Crossing, the content only stretches so far and all that. And a lot of these people were women, which I find kind of interesting. Just as from like a demographic point of view. So there's all these new players, and they're like, I want something that kind of hits me the same way Animal Crossing does, but maybe something that's got a little more content. Maybe it's a little deeper. This is how it starts, Well, I want something more engaged. And then, so there's things like Stardew Valley. Tons of people get into Stardew Valley. That game, which had already been around for quite a while and had a large fan base, got even bigger because of this new push for people looking for cozy games, but also people who are interested in other stuff. And out of that, or in response to that, several Kickstarters gained popularity within this newly forming cozy games community. And I hate to break it to you, but several of these Kickstarters are scams, either intentionally or unintentionally, because they are either they just took the money and ran, or the project was just not, weren't able to pull it together and make an actual game. And so there's all of these Kickstarter scandals rocking the cozy games community. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, how are you falling for this? Like I thought we were kind of over Kickstarter scams in general. Like, it's not really something you hear about anymore. And then it hit me. And I went, oh, these people never lived through Mighty Number 9. Oh my God. Wow. What a cultural, subcultural experience to have completely missed the boat on. I remember the early 2010s when crowdfunding and Kickstarter and Indiegogo were these it was the way of the future. And this is how games were going to be done now. Maybe not all of them, but it was like this perfect storm. You had all of these kind of things that were struggling to be born during the 7th generation had finally ripened. There was the expansion of broadband internet across much more of the country and the globe, which coincided with the further development and fleshing out of online storefronts like Steam, GOG, the console ones, and the proliferation of open source dev tools, free dev tools, things like not just RPG Maker, but also Unity. And suddenly we hit this moment where it's like, whoa, actually, like, anyone can really make a game. There was this period, like in the early days, the very, very early days of gaming in the 70s and 80s, where you could just as a single person sit in your room and make a game from start to finish. And then that kind of went away if you weren't a hobbyist, unless you were a hobbyist and just doing it for yourself, but you couldn't really expect to get very far with that. And then suddenly that was like back. They're like one man or very small teams are back. And Kickstarter was part of this moment where it was like this final piece that fell into place. Not only can we sell the game on our own terms on a digital storefront without the this was the thing. This was the missing piece of the puzzle. I can download free tools. I can make the game myself. I can use Blender or any number of other art programs or animation programs. I can use I can code it myself. I can put it up on a storefront. I don't need to cover manufacturing costs. I don't need to cover discs or marketing. There's social media marketing now. That's another new thing. People started using social media a lot more by the early 2010s. Smartphones were more popular. And now I don't even need. Why do you need a publisher? What are the purposes of a publisher? One is it was traditionally marketing, things like marketing, distribution, certification, testing, stuff like that. A lot of the business stuff is why you need, and funding. That was the last thing that could not be replaced. If you wanted to make something a little bit bigger. Right? A little bit bigger than maybe a one-man like Undertale project. And then Kickstarter comes in and it's like, oh, this is what we've been missing. Now, instead of relying on a publisher, we can totally take the big businesses out of the equation. I can have an idea for a game. I can maybe make a prototype or a demo or something like that. I can put it on Kickstarter. I can crowdfund it from people who believe in my vision. And then me and or my small team can work on this game using affordable tools. We can get it done, and then we can publish it on a digital platform like Steam, circumventing any need for physical manufacturing, for distributing to stores, for often certification testing. It's much less strict on like PC platforms generally. And we can do the whole thing cradle to grave and cut the big businesses out of the equation. This was also around the time the Ouya was this big thing, and it was like this whole, all the indie developers are gonna come together and they're gonna sing Kumbaya and we're gonna make it, it's gonna be free art, baby. And then you know what? To be fair, a lot of that was actually true. A lot of that has actually panned out. I maintain to this day, it's probably the best time for video games right now. There's always bullshit going on. But there is, just in terms of the access, the accessibility of game-making tools, of discoverability. Well, discoverability is difficult because there's so many games. Why are there so many games? Because fucking everyone can make a game. It's almost a good problem to have. And Kickstarter was this like... It was the new wave. Obviously, everyone expected publishers to still exist. You're going to have to keep having the big budget games. Those are still going to be a thing. But this new avenue of crowdfunding is going to be it's going to be side by side, that the people are going to fund games. And Shovel Knight came out. Everyone fucking loved Shovel Knight. Pillars of Eternity came out, and that was like, oh, this team, that was Obsidian. Obsidian, traditionally, you know, they had to work with publishers, they had to work with, you know, Bethesda, the other people, Activision, not Activision, no, Obsidian, I'm thinking of Troika. They had to work with it within the traditional publisher model for the longest time, and suddenly they take kind of a gamble on crowdfunding, and it pays off tremendously. It works out really well for them. And it's like, this is the way of the future, you know? Games that maybe were considered by many to be a little too niche. Over in... I believe it's in Blood, Sweat, and Pixels. I'm pointing to it right now. You can't see. I'm pointing for myself. There is an interview with... I don't remember. One of the people... There's a whole chapter about Path of Exile. Not Path of Exile. Pillars of Eternity. Different PoE. There's too many PoEs. About Pillars of Eternity. And how basically that kind of isometric, really kind of nitty-gritty classic RPGs, they stopped being made, not necessarily because they weren't selling as well, but because publishers just kind of arbitrarily said, people don't want those anymore. Same thing that they did with horror games a few years later. Same thing. Until like Five Nights at Freddy's came out and made them all look stupid. People forget about that as well. Just arbitrarily, no, you can't. You gotta make it a big full 3D. You gotta the camera around the character and all that, or the first person could be like Skyrim. And now it's like, oh my god, Pillars came out. It proved them wrong. It was a great game. It was like, no, these styles are still worth exploring. Fuck what the man says. And that was where people were. And then Inafune leaves. And this is when he's still relatively well liked. He's still seen by many people as the father of Mega Man. That's still his reputation. And he's like, I'm going to make a new studio. And we're going to make a follow-up to Mighty Number 9. Or sorry, to Mega Man. We're going to make like a spiritual successor to Mega Man, because the Mega Man series had all these cancellations. Capcom was treating the fan base very poorly. There was that whole like, Mega Man Legends 3 was canceled because the fans didn't care enough, which was such an asshole thing for a PR manager to say. And it was like, yeah, this is the next thing, is developers are going to use it. There was so much hype around it. There was so much hype around Mighty Number 9, and it was part of this whole kind of fight the power, Occupy Wall Street movement, that we're going to take the financial power back from the big businesses. And then it came out and it was bad. And it came out and it sucked. And people were like, oh, and I genuinely think Mighty Number 9 is historically important, not because it necessarily influenced any other games. Arguably, it might have caused Mega Man 11 to come out. But mainly that Mighty Number 9 was almost like a traumatic event for the gaming community at large. You have to remember that this was also a period of time where the community around video games and video game discussers was much more compact. It's grown even, now, like, it's about 10 years. It's been about 10 years. It has grown exponentially to the degree that it's really hard to get a bunch of the game of... It's hard to get that many people focused on a conversation now anymore. It has to be some kind of big budget thing. Like, I'm going to talk about Highguard in a bit. Highguard was the last announcement it was the big marquee climactic announcement of the Game Awards. Would anyone be talking about it if it was not that? Probably, well, maybe some people, but not nearly as much as it's being talked about now. Cyberpunk 2077. The most pre-ordered game of all time. Okay, yeah, that comes out and it's a big disaster. Everyone's going to talk about that. Nowadays, Mighty Number 9 would not cause nearly as great of a stir. Not nearly as great of a stir. I could guarantee you that. I don't think there's just enough people who care. But back in 2015, the general gaming discussion was compact enough, and there were not quite so many people that everything just got like swept up in whatever other news. People cared about Mega Man, and there were a lot of eyes on it. And then when this huge disappointment happens, it genuinely changed the industry. There were suddenly the tone around Kickstarter and Kickstarter games specifically changed dramatically and instantaneously. There was now a lot more, to this day, a lot more apprehension. I mean, what was the last big Kickstarter game you heard of? There's probably a couple, like video games, I mean. There's probably a couple. But the the last one I can think of is the System Shock remake. And hey, what happened with that? Well, that game had a bunch of development issues. And what did people think? Oh my god, this is going to be like Mighty Number 9 again. This is going to be another Kickstarter scam. Thankfully, it wasn't. The game came out just fine. I thought it was a great remake. But that was the level of apprehension that people had. And a year or two later, what's his name? Iga. I don't remember his first name. Iga, the Castlevania guy. He leaves Konami and he says, I'm starting my own studio and we're going to make a game like Symphony of the Night again. And instead of that roaring applause and that bated breath that everyone held for Mighty Number 9 in excitement of that, when Iga says we're going to make Bloodstained, everyone's like, oh god, are we going to do this again? And then I heard the game was good. A lot of people liked it. It was not a disappointment to most people, to the general audience. So, but that was the reaction. Was No Man's Sky also kickstarted? Yes, right? No? Wait. Is it not? No. Okay, it was not. Okay, cool. Yeah. So never mind. It was just because that would have been the other one, was No Man's Sky. That was probably a lot of people's first brushes with being really disappointed and like, okay, maybe like hold your breath a little bit on the game before the game comes out. And I really do think that the failure of Mighty Number 9, I think that if Mighty Number 9 had been good and well received, we would have been living in a somewhat different world. I can't say it would have changed the world, but I think that we would have continued to see developers, especially old school developers, using it as a platform to get away from the traditional publisher model. And yeah, some of them it would have happened at some point. There would have been a Mighty Number 9 type disaster at some point. It just so happened to be Mighty Number 9 that did it. And relatively early, relatively early, I have to say. And so now when I look at these cozy game peoples and they are in shock that someone would take the money and run, or take the money and make kind of a piece of shit that was really disappointing, I think, oh man, I'm the meme from James Franco at the Noose, and I'm saying first time. Yeah, so there's a whole community of people who are now experiencing that for the first time as well. That's as much as I want to talk about Comcept. They're dead and gone, and no one cared.